Okay, welcome back. This is part 2 of explaining why I hate Apple. First and foremost, one of the primary reasons that I hate Apple is I have never been a fan of the UI. First off, let me correct an error, because at least 3 of the people who have asked me this question as of late assume I have never owned a Mac. Okay, first things first. I have a Mac down here. There's a Mac in all my computers back here. And it's not that old, a Mac. It's only a few years old. 2, my first GUI computer was a Mac. Because of the UI things I'm about to cover was why I switched to Windows. So don't assume because I hate Apple, I've never used it. It's not for me. And the fact that Apple can't acknowledge that is one of my big beefs for that. Because if Apple would add about 3 tweaks to their OS, I could turn it into something usable for me. Because there are a few instances. Like, I don't sit here and say Linux is the best for everyone. I don't sit here and say Windows is the best for everyone. I don't sit here and say Mac is the best for everyone. I sit here and say all 3 suit the needs of the average user. All 3. Windows, Mac, Linux. I personally use Linux because it suits how I use a computer and what I use a computer for best. There are some things Windows suits what you use a computer for best. There are some things OS X suits what you use a computer for best. And if this is the best operating system for getting there, it's not. And occasionally I do those things, and occasionally I do wind up using OS X. And by the time I get through with the experience, because of the UI things I hate, I honestly feel like taking that expensive Mac, walking to the balcony, and shot-putting it as far as I possibly can, so that I'm never tempted to do that again. Okay. Let's set the Wayback Machine to 1984. The Mac. You have a menu bar, this little thing at the top, that changes based on the applications you have open. Let's set the Wayback Machine to a few years ago. You have this menu bar that changes based on the applications you have open. I hate this. I don't like it, Captain. I need my menu bar here, Captain. Let's set the Wayback Machine to 1985. Windows 1.0. This was what first attracted me to Windows. I didn't switch to Windows 1.0, but I was attracted to it. Because the menu bar is where, for how my mind works, it logically applies. And I have to thank Apple for vastly overreacting to Windows 1.0. I also liked the taskbar. I liked that my open applications appeared as little icons in the thing down here. I liked that. The Mac didn't have anything like it. Microsoft did this first, not Windows. Excuse me, Microsoft did this first, not Apple. On Apple, they became this extended icon on the desktop, which meant if I had a full-size window, you know, if I'd scaled my window up to fill my full screen, I couldn't see it. I had to then scale it down. I had to, like, no. Like, this UI was more intuitive to how my mind works. Now let's set the Wayback Machine forward to 1987. Windows 2.0. I'm going to show 2.1 because I don't have a picture of 2.0 that shows the taskbar. Without losing the taskbar, they added overlapping windows. This right here is why Apple fanboys say Microsoft stole from Apple. Okay, I'm gonna correct that misconception right now. First off, let's go back to why this exists in Windows. When Apple saw this, they freaked out that Windows had a menu bar. It wasn't the same menu bar. In my personal opinion, it's a much superior menu bar. The company that invented this is the Xerox part or Palo Alto Research Center. Apple licensed this technology for, I believe it was $100 million worth of stock and 2 walkthroughs of the Alto computer, which was the Xerox computer aimed at the end user. I think it was about the equivalent of 10 grand in today's dollars, which is why it flopped. The technology just wasn't quite there yet. But that was what Apple licensed. Microsoft also licensed this technology from Xerox. They licensed the 8010, which was the commercial version of the Alto. Both companies had legal right to use this technology from the people who invented it. Second, around the early 80s, Microsoft and Apple were developing similar technology. This is the other thing Apple fanboys go over and jump down Microsoft's throat at. Say, oh, they were cloning it. Alright, to these people, I have a simple statement. Go look at the people that worked for Xerox. Between 1977 and 1984, a lot of the key people in developing this and other technologies either went to work for Apple or Microsoft. They didn't steal. They legally licensed and had the same people who created it for Xerox help them develop it. Both companies did the same thing at the same time. People go, oh, well, Apple showed early beta versions of the Mac to Microsoft so that Microsoft could develop Word for them. Yes. They started their research in 1981, before that ever happened. Okay, so Apple overreacts. It says Windows 1.0 was stealing Apple technology, even though it's not. Well, Microsoft's freaked out. They contact Apple. They go, what's going on? If you're going to sue us, we need to stop developing for you. And at the time, the big development thing was Word and the predecessor to Excel. And Apple was getting a lot of market share because of this. And Microsoft was happy to sell it to Apple, but they were getting tired of Apple not wanting a license. And they wanted to sell this software to more people, which was largely what it's not. So the agreement that was worked out was Apple would not sue Microsoft over something they had no right to sue Microsoft over, in exchange for Microsoft agreeing not to put Word and the other things like that on Windows or any other platform than the Mac for 2 years, 86, 87. They would license all the Mac GUI technologies to Windows 1.0 and future development. This is another point of contestment. It's going to take me a little bit to explain, so I'm going to have to come up on it in the next part. Peace out, all. Ciao.